99X in the Morning X. It's Barnes and Leslie. We are your Morning X. You know, we have Sleaze every day, weekdays at 7:05 with Leslie Fram. And there was a really interesting story recently, Leslie, that I don't know that I understand. And it was about Britney Spears. And who did she marry this time?
Herself.
Okay.
She went on Instagram, okay? She had a wedding dress on and a veil. She looked at the camera. In the background was Sting's Field of Gold, playing Fields of Gold.
Yeah.
And she said, the day I married myself, bringing it back because it might seem embarrassing or stupid, but I think it's the most brilliant thing I've ever done. She married herself. But I didn't realize, Barnes, that this is a real thing.
It's a thing, and I didn't realize the term sologamy.
Sologamy.
I've just never heard that word before, but it is a thing, and we dug a little deeper. None of us understand it. I'm assuming you listening at work, in the car, in your bed, whatever, that you maybe don't understand it. Well, we're going to end that today. You're going to walk away from the Morning X and say you actually learned something. We have Sasha Kagan, the author of Quirky Alone. It's a manifesto for uncompromising romantics. She's a life coach who specializes in helping women 40 plus create the lives they want, and a self-marriage expert. So maybe someone Britney could have gone to. Sasha, welcome to the Morning X. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here to explain the story behind Britney's self-marriage, or at least what we can imagine. We're not Britney, and I would love it if Britney would reach out to me and I could be her life coach walking her through this process. But I want to share with you what I know about the trend of self-marriage and how it's been developing over the last 20 years.
And just to set it straight, have you ever been married to yourself?
I have taken that plunge. I have written the vows. I have done the ceremony.
So are you still married to yourself?
We continue to be together.
Really?
And you seem very happy. So please walk us through this.
Yeah.
So I want to walk you through the history of this as I know it. So I wrote a book called Quirky Alone that you mentioned, which is about people who don't want to settle for less than what they really want in a relationship. And while they might want to be with someone, also want to be okay with being alone. And so while I was researching for that book, people started to tell me about women who had married themselves as a ritual and ceremony of self-acceptance and self-love, and to vow to never abandon themselves in a relationship again. So, there's so much resonance here, I think, especially for women who have a tendency to obsess about relationships. And, whether you have one or you don't have one, your whole life is defined by being in one. So self-marriage is a way to make that vow to yourself about what's important to you.
I have to ask, though, obviously, a lot of people lose themselves in relationships. This has to happen to men as well, correct?
Absolutely. Men lose themselves in relationships, too. There have been men who have taken this step of marrying themselves, but it's more commonly women.
But are we talking about a cute little bit, or are we talking about you actually go to the courthouse, you get a marriage license, and you're married to yourself?
So it's not legal, and the government and the church are not involved in your self-wedding. It's something very unique, very individual, very creative. There's no industry around it, but there have been a growing number of people who have taken this step, and some do it spontaneously. Like, I'm betting that Britney did this in a spontaneous way, but I don't really know because I haven't talked to her. I would love to hear the story. Other people will go through a process of doing the steps of what happens typically in a wedding. I think the most important part is the writing of the vows and the reading them out loud and being witnessed.
So it's just a ceremony. So you're saying there's nothing legal about it?
No.
So it's just a commemorative key to the city.
For your life, which,
Right.
When else do you get a chance to do that?
Well, from what I understand, you can do it yourself, right, in front of a mirror, or you can have someone officiate the ceremony, like a friend, right?
There are no rules here, so no one can tell you that your self-marriage is invalid. I mean, so yes, you can put a candle in your room, put on a nice dress, say some nice words to yourself in the mirror, and declare yourself wed. I have a friend who did it spontaneously, buying a ring out at a street fair. And you can also go through a whole process.
What happens, Sasha, if you meet someone
Yeah, can you cheat?
And then it turns into a relationship. Maybe you fall in love, you have a fling or whatever. Then what happens?
I mean, then you're just this awesome person to be in a relationship with because you've done this work of loving yourself. So it means that you're like a really good relationship partner.
It's a threesome-ish.
It's a threesome because you're so strong on your own.
But not legal. Okay, this is the thing, and I guarantee right now, Atlanta, Georgia, Sasha Kagan, who is married to herself.
She's a life coach.
Some dude is driving around going, this is the biggest crock of I've ever heard. Now, do you get people that say that to you? Like, this is stupid. You're stupid.
Of course. They like to say that you're stupid or you're narcissistic or you're selfish or all of those things.
And you say what?
I say you don't really understand this because there's really nothing selfish about taking care of yourself. I mean, people who are taking care of themselves are the ones who have energy to take care of other people, and we're not like running at a deficit.
Weren't you on Dr. Phil talking about this, Sasha?
I was, and Dr. Phil did a kind of surprise move of bringing on a Trump person to debate me.
What?
And so it was pretty crazy because what you're talking about men, like in the beginning when this was starting, I didn't detect like a bad reaction to it. It was like, oh yeah, everybody should be happy. Like what a wonderful thing for people to take time to get clear about what's important to them, what their boundaries are, what they love, and stand in that. Great. But now it does seem like with the atmosphere that's been created, there's this more of the feeling from men of like, oh, you don't want to be with us. And that's not what it's about, really. Like most people who marry themselves are in relationships with other people. It's not about excluding anyone.
But on the surface, though, it sounds like some freaky thing. Like, so someone told Britney about it. Britney did it. And the headline is Britney Spears marries herself.
It's so not freaky to take a moment to appreciate and honor your own life. Other cultures have coming of age rituals. We don't really have anything like that. So it's funny that it seems freaky because I think it's so logical, actually.
Who did it first?
There's one woman in Los Angeles who claims to be the first. My understanding of it is there just have been people across history who have had this great idea, just like Britney did, and felt like this is the most brilliant thing I could ever do. And they just did it.
I mean, it's really about self-confidence and loving yourself.
Once you dig in, but you don't know that when you're reading the headlines. It just sits. Yeah.
And why do we call it self-marriage? I think that's what you're getting to. It's because marriage is important. Like we could just say, I help women do this in my coaching programs. Some of them get shy about marrying themselves because it feels exclusive, like what you're saying. So they'll call it soul commitment or self-commitment ceremony.
Did you go all in? Did you have like a reception and a cake? And what was your reception like?
I did mine in Buenos Aires, where I was living at the time, and I think I felt more free to do something, freaky, we could say there, because I wasn't going to have friends,
freaky
judging me. But I had my friends there who understood, and one of them had already done it in a Britney Spears kind of way, like she had done it spontaneously. The other woman did it 10 years later. But it was in the Japanese gardens in Buenos Aires. It was in this calm, meditative place. And then we had sushi. That was the reception.
Wow.
Very nice.
Very nice. Sasha Kagan is the first, or not the first, but she has a book out called Quirky Alone, a manifesto for uncompromising romantics. She married herself. I would be the first person to divorce myself. And it would not last long. I'd be so annoyed. Thank you very much, Sasha, because now we understand it. I get it now. I understand what's happening.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
This is The Morning X. It is 99X.